I finally sat down this afternoon and read Go Set a Watchman by Harper Lee. You've all heard of this book. Everybody on BookTube has been talking about it since it came out, since before it came out. Contrary to many of the reviews I've read, I love this book. That could be because I didn't go into it looking for anything. I mean, I've read To Kill a Mockingbird. It was required reading in grade 10 English back when I was in high school. That's 6 years ago now that I've read that book. I didn't like it at the time, actually. But perhaps if I read it again now, I would enjoy it. I know I definitely enjoyed Go Set a Watchman. Perhaps it's because I can relate to the 20-something-year-old Jean Louise to Scout, to her discovering that the things she grew up with are not exactly what they seemed. She discovers her disillusion in this novel. Kill a Mockingbird was obviously published first, it was written second. Atticus Finch is a beloved character. I hold no special attachment to him. So perhaps that's why I was able to accept Atticus Finch in Go Set a Watchman. He seemed to me a very believable character. He came across as human, someone that could actually exist. Yes, he's not as morally admirable as the Atticus Finch in To Kill a Mockingbird, but Scout was, 10 or 11 in To Kill a Mockingbird, and she saw the father that she wanted to see. And perhaps the Atticus Finch in To Kill a Mockingbird was never meant to exist. What we have in this novel instead is a very tragic portrayal of what could be a very real town. A town that is stuck in the past, that finds it difficult to move on into the future. When people read Go Set a Watchman, they're obviously looking at the race aspect primarily, and I could talk about that, but I won't. You could almost consider this novel feminist in a way, because we have a very clear decision by Scout not to marry Henry. Scout has done exactly the opposite of what she's expected to do as a young woman, the only surviving child of her father in a southern town. Instead of staying and looking after her father and keeping house like her aunt and the other women in the community seem to expect her to do, she goes to New York and lives her own life. And when she comes back, there's her childhood friend, her lover Henry, waiting for her, and he seems to expect that they'll get married at some point, and she even considers this until she realizes that their moral perceptions of the world are completely different, that although she loves him and that she's very fond of him, she could never live with him because they're just so different, and she doesn't feel any obligation to marry him just for the sake of being married and doing what a young woman should have been doing at this time. Despite being 26 and single and most of the young women in her town being married, she thinks it's okay, and she finds it's okay to go it on her own. Now, I'm not American, so a few aspects of this book I had to look up. There's a lot of discussion about a Supreme Court decision, and I had no idea what they were talking about. There's an organization that Atticus and Henry are part of. I had to look that up as well. What struck me was that this book has been released now, and in many ways it still seems relevant, both in the way it approaches racism and in the way that Scout discovers that everything she's known about her upbringing and her town are an illusion. I actually ended up giving this book 5 stars on Goodreads because I enjoyed it that much. I think Go Set a Watchman is the kind of novel that you would really enjoy if you had never read To Kill a Mockingbird or didn't like To Kill a Mockingbird. It's a great standalone novel. It's a great piece of literature in itself. If you're going into it looking for everything you loved about To Kill a Mockingbird, don't bother reading it. It's not here. As itself, though, it's a great piece of writing.